Imagine sitting in a classroom. It's quiet. Everyone around you staring down at the piece of paper in front of them. The symbols on a page to them is like unlocking a story. It's like a science lesson or a math problem. The room feels calm to them. But to you, those symbols are like a locked door. Your heart is racing. You know you are smart. You can build complex machines. You understand when people say it out loud to you. When people explain them out loud, you understand it. But when you look at the pages, the code just doesn't seem to crack. And today we are going to step into the shoes of the 1 in 5 people who live with dyslexia. Now, for decades, pop culture, the modern culture, has told us a very specific, very incorrect story about dyslexia. We are told that dyslexia simply means seeing letters backwards. We think of it like a visual glitch. It's like someone put the wrong prescription lenses into a child's glasses. But the truth is far more complex. It's much more exhausting. And actually, it's quite fascinating. Today, we are going to look at exactly what it feels like to be a dyslexic kid. Those heavy emotional toll it takes. And we're going to solve the ultimate mystery. If it's not a vision problem, why do dyslexic kids so often mix up the letters B and V? Now, to understand the dyslexic brain, we first have to take a step back and understand how a typical brain reads. And to do that, we have to start with a massive mind-bending fact. Is that human brains do not come with a pre-built reading center in the brain. Now, spoken language comes naturally to us. If you put a baby in a room with talking adults, their brain will naturally absorb and learn to speak that language. Chinese, English, whatever. But if you put a baby in a room filled with books, they will never spontaneously learn to read. Because reading is an invention, a learned skill that requires the brain to literally hack itself. When we learn to read, we hijack and repurpose a part of our brain's left hemisphere. Now, a region near the back of our head that is originally designed just to recognize everyday objects and shapes. Cognitive neuroscientists call this newly hacked area the visual word form area, or the brain's letterbox. So in a neurotypical brain, this letterbox sees letters, instantly translates them into sounds, and shoots that information over the language centers of the brain. It becomes completely automatic. But in a dyslexic brain, that neurological highway is under construction. It doesn't fire automatically. So let's get the biggest myth out of the way right now. Dyslexia is not a vision problem. Now, dyslexic kids do not have broken eyes. They see the letters exactly as they are printed on the page. The letters are not physically jumping around or dancing. No, they're not. Dyslexia is actually a phonological processing issue. And phonology is the ability to break spoken words down into their individual sounds. We call them the phonemes. When a typical reader looks at the word cat, their brain effortlessly chops it into 3 sounds: k, e, t. They map the visual symbol to the auditory sound in milliseconds. Now, a dyslexic child's brain struggles to make that kind of translation. Brain scans, specifically fMRIs, shows us exactly what happens. The left hemisphere of the brain, where that fast automatic letterbox lives, barely lights up in a dyslexic reader. Because the fast highway is closed, so the brain tries to compensate. It routes the information all the way around to the right hemisphere and the frontal lobe to try to manually decode the word. So you imagine trying to chop down a tree. A neurotypical brain uses a chainsaw. It's easy. But a dyslexic brain is using a pocket knife. You take a pocket knife and then you try to chainsaw the tree down. It takes 10 times the energy, the focus, the time. This is why reading for a dyslexic kid isn't just hard, it is physically and mentally exhausting. By 10 a.m. in a regular class day, a dyslexic student might have burned through the same amount of cognitive energy as a typical adult does after the entire day of work, 8-hour day of work. This brings us to the most famous symptoms of dyslexia. If it's not a vision problem, why do dyslexic kids constantly write B instead of D or P instead of Q? Why some of them see EAT as TEA or WAS become SAW? Now, the answer lies in actually a logical feature of how humans process the 3D world. It's called mirror invariance or object constancy. Now, from the time when we are babies, our brains naturally learn how physical objects work. Think about it. If you look at a chair facing the left side, it's a chair. If you turn it around to face the right side, it's still a chair. Your brain knows it's a chair. You don't have to completely relearn what the object is because the chair orientation just been changed. Your brain automatically ignores the left to right direction because in the real physical world, a cup is still a cup, a dog is still a dog, no matter which way they face. But then, we have to learn the alphabet. And suddenly, for the first time in a child's life, direction matters. You take a circle, now you put a straight stick. You put it on the left side, it's a B. You put it on the right side, it's a D. You move it down, it becomes a P or a Q. They are just the exact same shape, just rotated or mirrored in a different way. So to read it perfectly, the child has to actively override their brain logical instinct to say, hey, a B and a D are the exact same object, but now they are facing different ways. Because dyslexic brains have less automatic activation in that specialized left hemisphere letterbox area, that particular area that it's overriding this mirroring rule, their brains default to their natural logical programming. So they see B and a D and their brain says, hey, same thing. So when a dyslexic child mixes up these letters, their brain isn't broken. In fact, their brain is actually doing what it was designed to do, recognizing physical objects. They just haven't been able to build the neurological bypass for reading yet, because those are codings, those are encodings. Understanding this neuroscience is actually very fascinating, it's incredible, but we cannot ignore what this actually feels like for a child living through every single day. Like they have to go through this process every single day. Imagine knowing the same answer to a question. You are smart, you are engaged, but when you are asked to read the paragraph out loud to the entire class, suddenly you stutter, you pause, you guess the wrong word because your brain is exhausted from manually decoding every single letter. You hear the kid behind you sighing. The rest of the class then, you hear the giggles. The teacher means well, but she or he tells you, just try harder. You slow down or you focus. You're trying harder than anyone else in the room. Because of this, dyslexic kids often develop deep, heavy anxiety around school. Because reading is the foundation of all early education. You need to read to do math word problems, you need to learn history, you need to learn science, you need to learn any subjects, we need to learn how to read first. Dyslexic kids often incorrectly mislabel themselves as stupid. Because the emotional toll of constantly trying your hardest only to fail at something that seems so completely effortless to your friends. It's very devastating. It takes away at a child's self-esteem, a child's worth. Many develop their own surviving mechanism in a classroom environment. They might become the class clown to distract from their reading struggles. They might withdraw entirely, trying to become invisible, or they might act out in frustration. They are not bad kids, they are just exhausted kids living in a system that doesn't understand how their neurology works. But this story does not end in defeat, it ends in a profoundly different kind of brilliance. Because the dyslexic brain cannot rely on the highly linear sequential processing of the left hemisphere, it relies heavily on the right hemisphere and the frontal lobe. And by doing this, it develops incredible structural strengths that neurotypical brains often lack. Dyslexic individuals are frequently big picture thinkers because they don't get bogged down by the linear symbol by symbol processing. They are often exceptional at recognizing large patterns, 3D spatial reasoning, and complex, out-of-the-box problem solving. They see the forest while everyone else is staring at the bark on a single tree. So this is not just a feel-good theory. It is why fields like engineering, architecture, entrepreneurship, technology, and the arts are overwhelmingly populated by brilliant dyslexic minds. They are the inventors, the builders, and the visionaries. Being a dyslexic kid is undeniably tough. It is living every day in a world built for a different kind of brain. But with the right kind of evidence-based, phonics-heavy teaching, patience, and true understanding, those kids don't just learn to read. They learn to leverage their profoundly unique brains to change the world. If you know someone with dyslexia, share this with them. Let them know that their brain isn't broken. It's just wired for a different kind of brilliance.